Hi, welcome along to another conversation we're having with our pulmonary fibrosis and lung transplant community. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Erika Maples. Welcome, Erika.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So, tell us about your story, because obviously, people can tell from looking at you. You were obviously diagnosed very young. So, tell us about how that happened, and what your journey has been like.
Okay. So after I graduated high school, I joined the Air Force, and I was doing basic training. I was about one day away from graduating when I got pulled out of my training flight, and I got sent to a clinic, and I got a chest x-ray done. And the doctors were like, "Are you sick? Have you ever been sick?" I'm like, "No, I've been pretty healthy." And so I was there for about another 2 months while they did all these like extensive trainings or testings. They did a lot of testings, and basically everything came back negative. I wasn't positive for cystic fibrosis or lupus or anything like that. So they decided to send me home. I got a lung biopsy, the December, and it was inconclusive. They needed a bigger tissue, so I got a bronchoscopy done where they took like a little bit of a bigger tissue sample, and that was in January of 13, and that's when I was officially diagnosed with idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis.
So, I mean, what was it like, receiving that news, and how did you go about kind of digesting it? Because many people, when they hear about pulmonary fibrosis or idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis first, they've never heard of it.
Yeah, my mom, she used to be a nurse in the Air Force, so she did a lot of research, and she came across the disease, and she's like, well, hopefully she doesn't get that one. And that's the one I ended up being diagnosed with. And it was a shock then, and it's still like a really big shock now. I get asked a lot if it was cystic fibrosis, and I have to tell them it's pulmonary fibrosis. A lot of people don't know what that is yet, and I have to explain to them exactly what it is and how it's more associated with like older people. But for whatever reason, I got it at a young age.
And are you aware, has there been any other cases in your family? Was it a known
No,
familial?
no, it was just me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, I know you've had a lung transplant. So tell
Yes.
us about when you received that and how that has been.
Okay. I was officially listed April 1st of 2014, and then officially transplanted June 8th of 14. I ended up being in the hospital a month before my transplant because my oxygen levels were so high I couldn't do it at home. And about a week before my transplant, I was placed on ECMO, which, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was placed on ECMO a week before my transplant. And after my transplant, I was extubated a couple of days afterwards, but then I was also re-intubated because I was so sick that like it took a while for my new lungs to like fully inflate and work at a good consistency and everything, because I had a lot of fluid on my chest from the ECMO and everything like that. But and then I celebrated my first month in the hospital. I didn't get out till almost August, I think, was the time I actually got to go home.
That must have been
So, yeah.
a great feeling when you got to go home.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was definitely really nice. We were there
Um,
from May to August, so.
and are you back to Cleveland much for checkups for your transplant?
Um, I go about every 4 months right now. Yeah.
And I suppose just describe to us, the transformation in your quality of life since. So, do you find it hard to believe, how ill you had become, and I suppose kind of
Yeah.
what you can do today?
I remember leading up to my transplant, I struggled taking showers. I would have to, like, after taking a shower, I'd have to lay down for about 30 minutes before I could get dressed or anything. It was a struggle. Getting my shoes on when I was in the hospital before my transplant. Just even brushing my teeth without the oxygen mask on. My stats dropped really low. Yeah. And now afterwards, obviously I'm not on oxygen anymore. I work a full-time job. I graduated college with an associate's. I've had a lot of opportunities since my transplant that I never had before.
That's brilliant. And obviously kind of spreading awareness is important to you, and giving back. So you mentioned already, people ask you, oh, is it cystic fibrosis? So do you find that a challenge, and what things do you do to try and help raise awareness?
I used to find it a challenge, but now that I know more about what I went through, and since it's been such a long time since I've been diagnosed, I know a lot more about it now, and it's a lot easier to explain it to people. I remember one of my college classes, I was in speech class, and I wrote a speech about pulmonary fibrosis and all this other information, and a lot of people in my class didn't know what it was, or there were people that did know, like they had a family relative that they knew had it.
Well, Erika, thank you very much for joining us today to share your story, and hopefully people can take inspiration from this in terms of those that are considering a lung transplant, the transformation that can come after it. So I wish you the very best, and thank you again for joining us today.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks, Erika.
All right, bye.
Bye.